And welcome back to the Brazos Valley Preps Cast. I'm not Alex Miller, and no, you are not in some kind of COVID-19 trance here. We are doing this one from Zoom. I am Andrew Tenio, alongside, as always, Jake Weiss. We are handling things. Jake, how are you doing? How's your week been?
It's been good, man. I can't complain. Another fun week of high school football on deck. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and kind of jump in on things. We'll kind of start off with where you were at this past Friday. You were at you were up north a little bit in the DFW area covering the Consol Forney game. Consol falling a little short late. Forney was able to run the ball really well in the second half. It kind of closed things out. From your perspective, what did you kind of see from the Tigers? What things kind of maybe went wrong on their end, and just your overall takeaways from playing a quality team in Forney?
Yeah, the biggest thing for me, and this is kind of a weird analogy, or people might out there might think this is a weird analogy, but it really reminded me a lot of Consol's loss in the playoffs last year to LaPorte. You just went up against a team that was really, really good at running the ball, and they knew what their bread and butter was. Consol, to their credit, man, give them a ton of credit in the first half. For those that don't know, Forney running back Javian Osborne is a four-star. He's a Notre Dame commit. Um, they held him to about 40, I think 44 yards and 7 carries in the first half. Consol was up 13-7 at the break, but then he just and Coach Brandon Schmidt said the same thing to me after the game too. They just wore us down. He finished the game 20 carries, 194 yards, 4 touchdowns. All 4 touchdowns coming in the second half on the ground there for Javian Osborne. So you go up against a guy like that. You kind of knew, okay, he's gonna kind of throw his counter punch, so to speak. And unfortunately for Consol, they just weren't able to match it. But yeah, that was pretty much the biggest takeaway for me was, Osborne ran wild, and yeah, Consol took the loss there.
I was up the road at Merrill Green for Brian in Huntsville. Brian took one of the chin, took a couple of the chin in I believe it was a 58-0 loss. I did a little bit of math on this in my gamer. It's the worst loss, I think, since the 2022 season when they lost to Duncanville in the bye district, and it was the first time that they had been shut out since 2020. It was just a simple scale of just Huntsville having a lot of talent. They had guys everywhere. Their quarterback Zay Adolph was really good throughout the day. Trayshawn Brown was a great running back. They kind of controlled the ground game early and often, and one of the things that was going against Brian to me was kind of inconsistent starts, and that kind of reared its ugly head again. Weren't able to get sustained drives offensively. Defensively, couldn't defend the run at the level that they're probably hoping to defend the run at. And when you get to that point, it kind of becomes a snowball effect. It's really hard to come back and get back into a game when a team like Huntsville, with the rushing attack that they do, can get going so early. And I think that was one of the big detriments to the team. And something that I've mentioned before with Brian, and something that they are in an unusual position is depth wise. They may not have the depth that they're looking for. And I talked to Coach about that, and he definitely felt like as the game wore on, the wear and tear of the game wore on. Um, the team felt it. The team felt it in some ways. And something that they'll probably want to bounce back on. And we'll talk a little bit about this upcoming week's games. They'll have another tough competitor in Brenham, who did beat Huntsville in week one, this upcoming Friday over at Cubs Stadium. We'll kind of jump into some other things as well. Other teams, College Station. I'll talk a little about College Station. I was able to speak to Stoney yesterday. This is, I don't know if you know this fact. This is the first time since College Station's inaugural year that they start the year 0-2.
Oh, wow.
Did
Okay.
you know that?
No, I did not
It's
actually.
the first time they started 0-2 since 2012. They started the year 0-4, and then they won the final 3 games of that year. In a bit of uncharted waters, coming off the back of a loss to Magnolia. a game where, I talked to Sony a little bit and he kind of was just straight up honest. The team's not consistent right now. They're looking for some more consistency, whether that's on drives where they don't need to rely so much on the big play, establishing the ground game, getting some key third down conversions, or defensively just making the big plays. We've kind of seen through the first 2 weeks, and you maybe saw this a little bit when you were at Klein Collins 2 weeks ago. It's a defense that I feel is an opportunistic group. They find ways to get key takeaways. They did that against Magnolia. Um, and Stoney talked about that a little bit about how he wanted to have his defense be more consistent, but also knowing that they can make the splash plays that gives the offense the jolt of energy, whether that's good field position or just the momentum flip. That's something he's looking forward to when they go travel to Austin Anderson, a program that made the playoffs last year. Will probably be a team that probably makes the playoffs again this year. Now they do lose a couple of notable guys. Max Gerlich is off to UTSA. Ed Small is off to UT. So a couple of big FBS guys there,
TCU.
but they return a lot on defense. What's that? I'm sorry.
Ed Small's at TCU.
TCU, thank you. TCU, not Texas. TCU. So those will be replacing some key FBS guys, but the defenses look pretty good. They've basically pitched 2 shutouts. I mean, I know their opener they gave up 2 points, but it was a safety, so you can't really give that.
Yeah.
You can't really blame that on the defense too much there. So basically 2 defensive shutouts defensively. So that'll be a game that I think will be really interesting to see if College Station can be on the right footing. Because if you're staring at 0-3, which I get it, the first 2 games are non-district. They don't hold it against you for district. But from a morale standpoint, if you stare down the barrel of 0-3, that's not easy for any team. I don't care who you are. You were over at Rudder yesterday, I believe. You talked to Coach Izar a little bit. Talk to me about, what's kind of the vibe over there with the Rangers. What are they kind of feeling headed in this week?
Yeah, and I guess we should have mentioned it in the last segment too, but yeah, for those that weren't aware, all 4 because we mentioned Brian and we mentioned Consol games. Brian also, or excuse me, Rudder also lost last week. College Station did as well. So tough showing for the Brian College Station schools there. 0-4 night for them last week. And I meant to mention this when I was talking about Consol Forney, and we should have probably mentioned it when we are talking about College Station, but it's a district opener for College Station and Consol this week. So
Yeah.
they're kind of entering that second part of the season, if you will. Brian Brenham is still non-district, obviously. And then the game I'm about to talk about, Rudder, Pflugerville, Connolly, still non-district as well. But so think of it this way. Bryan ISD, still in non-district. College Station ISD, now in district. That's kind of the joy of being in a 9-team district there. You start a lot earlier. But yeah, I mean, Rudder obviously took another one. Like I just mentioned, like everybody kind of did. Took one on the chin last week at El Campo. But, credit to the Rangers. I mean, once again, we kind of knew they were going to be young. I think they knew they were going to be young. Now you get to come back home against the Pflugerville Connolly team that, kind of in a similar boat to you. They're 1-1, but, they were young last year. You kind of wonder, okay, is Pflugerville Connolly, they dropped their opener, big shootout, 55-33. Then they come back and win the next week, 42-28. So kind of an up and down team in Pflugerville Connolly. You're not really sure what you're getting yet. So that could bode well for Rudder. I mean, like I said, Rudder's a young team. They're still kind of finding their footing. Haven't hit district yet, which is the main thing, obviously. They've got a few more non-district games. So this is another week for them to really kind of figure out, okay, what can we do? What can we do well? Who are some of those young guys stepping into new roles? That sort of thing. Another big challenge for them, especially with just including this week. They've got 3 non-district games left. So another chance for them to show kind of what they're made of this week. And, hey, they're happy to be back home. I do know that. 3-hour bus ride to El Campo. Not a fun thing. I talked to Rudder edge rusher Brandon Brown, senior edge rusher there, and I asked him, I said, hey, man, how far is that bus ride? He said 3 hours. I said, I can't imagine that was very fun. And he agreed. So, yeah, they're happy to be back home at Merrill Green this Friday, 7:30 kickoff. I think their second 7:30 game this season, actually, which is funny because I feel like Brian's usually the 7:30 team.
Yeah.
Normally, but I guess, I don't know. Who knows how Rudder got it this year. But, yeah, should be a good one for them. Like I said, I know they're happy to be back home, and hopefully they get a good crowd out there to root them on.
Yeah, I feel like most of Rutgers non-district is 7:30, which I don't know why everyone else just feels like it's 7. So I
Yeah,
don't know. That's maybe it's just it's the way some things are set up. Maybe I don't know. Something I know that I don't know. We'll kind of pivot here to some area games you're excited about, maybe some aspects of games, maybe some players you're excited to see. Kind of throw out a team or two, a matchup or two you're kind of excited about, keeping your eyes on as we get into week 3.
yeah, two big ones for me. I'll stick with two. Just kind of stay with two to keep it simple. I think the first one that sticks out to me that really catches my eye is Hearn at Brazos Christian. Just kind of one of
Mm-hmm.
those rare UIL TAPS matchups. Um, Close game last year. We've talked about it before. I think we talked about it in the preseason podcast. Close game last year. I think it was 15-7 or 15-8 was the final.
It was
Um,
very defensive game.
yeah, exactly. And I want to say too, Brazos Christian. I could be wrong here, but I think Brazos Christian scored all 15 points in the first quarter, either first quarter or first half.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
so you kind of wonder now, a year later, kind of where both teams stand in this one. Um, Hearn's a team that they had some tough luck in it to start non-district and start the season. They're 0-2 again, just like they were last year coming into this matchup. Brazos Christian's off to a really good start. They're 2-0. They picked up
Mm.
right where they left off last year because you kind of wondered with a new head coach how they were going to look. They seem to be firing on all cylinders. And kind of a fun fact for you, Andrew, because you threw out me a fun fact earlier, excuse me, about College Station. This is Brazos Christian's only home game this month.
Wow.
They won't be at home until October. So they started the first two games on the road. So technically one of those is in August. But yeah, this is their only home game until they hit district play. So yeah, it's funny, because they have a first year head coach. So I kind of wondered, like, okay, does he still think he's kind of a newcomer since he hasn't had a home game yet? Like he's had two games with them, but it's like you haven't been at home yet. I wonder how that feels.
Yeah.
Second game I'll throw at you. And I kind of go back and forth. There's a couple on this list I really like. I'm gonna go Malakoff Madisonville.
Mm.
Madisonville's kind of have to pick themselves up off the mat this week. Lost a tough one in Navasota. They were up 17-0, I believe, in that one. End up losing that one 31-24. Tough break for the Mustangs. They get Malakoff, who we know just 2 years removed from a state championship. I believe Malakoff made it to state last year. Am I right about that?
I think I know Columbus won. I don't remember if it Malakoff was put off the top of my head.
I feel like that's who they played.
Uh,
Point is,
Probably.
Malakoff is got some pedigree, right?
Yeah.
Last year this was a close game. Madisonville was hanging with them late. And I want to say it came down to the last 20 or so seconds. Yeah, 29-28. I had to double check, pull up the score here from last year's game,
Mm-hmm.
29-28. Remember that one coming down to the last couple of seconds. Malakoff scored late. So another interesting one for me because now Malakoff's got to come to Madisonville. Um, Sort of a similar note. I'm sure Madisonville probably didn't like that bus ride they had last year up there. Now Malakoff's got
Yeah.
to take that same bus ride. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting one Friday night. I'm interested how that one shapes out.
Mm. I'm gonna throw a couple your way as well. I know you mentioned the loser of the Battle of I-90. I'm gonna bring up the winner of the Battle of I-90. I'm gonna bring up Navasota. They travel to Royal. I'm always really interested to see what teams do following an emotional win,
Yep.
a big rivalry win, a game where they had to clinch it at the end with the rushing touchdown, and then they intercepted the pass with like in the waning seconds of the game. I'm always interested to see if that high stays there or if the team is too much of the high and they kind of get brought down to earth in a way. And I feel like this is an interesting game to go on the road. It's basically a pick 'em. It's a very tight game in terms of the spread for this game. I always like the passing game with Jablonski at quarterback. Chappell brought a nice running element, 100 yards. He had the game winner as well, or the eventual game winner. Excuse me. Um, so really interested to see what they kind of do against an opponent like Royal, if they can keep the momentum going. they've gone off to a better start, I feel like, than they did last year. We know Nav sort of gone out that real hot start late,
Yep.
late last year. Came in with some momentum this year. Played Sealy pretty close, a lot closer than the year before. And then obviously they win Madisonville. So curious there. Franklin at Lorena. I mean,
Yeah.
Lorena looks like they're a better team this year. They're 2-0 starting. They beat Austin Regents in week 2. Franklin coming off a weird week 2 bye because they only played 9 games during the regular season. So curious to see how they come out of the bye week. If the taste of the China Spring loss is kind of still in their mouth a little bit. It will learn to being a better team. Franklin travels to Lorena. So really curious about those two local teams for two different completely different reasons in a way. One on if it's going to be an emotional high, and the other just coming off a bye week and coming off on a big emotional loss in week 1 against a China Spring team that's maybe better than expected. Now they're playing a Lorena team that is probably better than last year.
Yeah.
So yeah, any other players you'd like to any performances over the week? Anything else you're kind of keeping an eye on? Any other aspects, any local teams? Anything else?
No, I think that's everything. I got a quick aside though. I have to say I'm glad you brought up Franklin Lorena, man. You're doing a good job filling it. Alex you're doing a good job filling in for Mr. Miller there. I don't think he would have been happy if we didn't mention that one at all in our area games to watch. So it's glad you got that one in there. But no, yeah, and I guess for those wondering, Alex isn't out sick or anything like that. He's just up in North Texas covering the Texas A&M volleyball team. They're up. They got 2 big matches against TCU and then SMU. Am I right about that, Andrew?
Yeah, they had SMU last night, and I think they'd play TCU tonight. And you know Alex Miller isn't hosting because I'm supposed to be the host and not even mention why he was going to begin with till about 20 minutes in. But
no, I mean, yeah, that's why we're doing it this way, everybody. And he had to take the camera too, the normal podcast camera. Give you a little inside baseball there. But yeah, no, I think
yeah,
it should be a fun week, man. Looking forward to see what shapes out after Friday night, what kind of the landscape looks like. So yeah, no, I think that wraps it up for us.
all right. Well, that's all. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Check out all of our coverage at theeagle.com, whether it's this podcast or any stories that we have coming out. And we will see you again very soon. Thanks.